本当に恐ろしいな。
Hi there everyone, Lars back again with another review for the Apothecary Diaries, brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And first off, I am so happy that since doing my first video for the Apothecary Diaries, I've been seeing more and more clips pop up for this series and more people talking about it. Let's continue to spread the word about this fantastic anime, because it really deserves the attention. The basic plot for this week's episode is rather straightforward. Mamao is asked by the Emperor himself to go in and save Mistress Lihua from death. Because, well, while she might not be his favorite concubine, she is the lead concubine who takes up a residency in the Crystal Palace, the most prominent of all of the structures within the rear palace. And she was the one who had procured for him a son. So she could possibly do that again. She's a very important individual, and yet, despite all of the ministrations from the doctor and from her ladies-in-waiting, she is waning in life. She is turning into a living corpse. And so Mamao has to pull off a miracle and save her from the brink of death. And not just that, but also save who the woman is. And again, this is an episode that I feel really highlights the strength within female characters. And when I say that, I'm not talking about the recent crap that Hollywood has tried to push, where you just have these uncaring, strong women who show on up, act like Clint Eastwood from Dirty Harry. Never mind all the other great Clint Eastwood movies where he actually does have a heart, but he's like, I am here to kick butt, take names, pew pew pew, boom boom boom, I need no man. That's just, it's been overdone. And that's coming from someone who, if you've been paying attention to any of our live streams, I have said on record multiple times, I love me big, strong women. I like a woman who can fold me in half. However, that being said, that's not the only kind of strong woman that is out there. Strong women come in many different forms. Strength of character, strength of conviction, strength of skill, strength of inner and physical beauty. Women have all different kinds of fantastic strengths, and that is something that I love about the Apothecary Diaries, that within the parameters of the story, within the confines of its world building, where the women of the rear palace are effectively toys and possessions of the emperor, who must remain chaste because he may one day grace their bed, and because he's kind of a selfish prat, as we learn by the end of this episode, if you're paying attention. These women are not treated as human beings. And yet, by the end of this episode, it becomes very clear that no, these women are taking charge of who they are, their identity, and they are strong in many different ways. And Mamao brings that out of them. And I find that really so beautifully done. This show has gotten me actually a bit emotional at multiple turns, and that's surprising considering, again, just how much humor is actually packed into the show. But let's quickly go over the main details right here. The Emperor asks for Mamao to go and take care of Lady Lihua, to bring her back from the brink of death. However, her ladies-in-waiting do not like Mamao there because she is the lady-in-waiting to a rival concubine. On top of that, she's very young, and she looks homely. Everything about her is not okay within the Crystal Palace, where all of the women are drop-dead gorgeous and loyal to a fault. So loyal, in fact, that they are unwittingly doing something that is actually hurting their mistress, as Mamao discovers, because she continuously goes back again and again and again to try to fulfill the Emperor's orders and keeps getting kicked out. And I'm just going to say, I want that superpower where you can bounce on your knees without getting injured. Yeah, can I please have that? Well, she keeps on showing up again and again and again, and finally Jinshi, the agent of the Emperor, makes sure that she can get in and see Lady Lihua. And she realizes that the poisonous powder from the first episode is still being applied to her. One of her ladies-in-waiting is saying, I want her to remain beautiful. She loves being beautiful. But there's poison in that powder. And so Mamao has a proper girl boss moment and starts slapping down this lady, dragging her by her hair, and really making very clear the fact that she's been applying poison to her beloved mistress, and that she is partially responsible for why Lady Lihua is in such a horrible condition. After making it very clear what's going on here, Mamao takes charge of the care for the top concubine, and she begins ordering what kind of meals need to be given to her, make sure that the lady drinks plenty of tea, even if it means that she wets the bed. We need to get the poisons out of her in any way possible. She even gets Jinshi to build a sauna so that way they can sweat the poisons and toxins out of Lady Lihua. Now, while all of this medical care is being given to Lady Lihua, you get a very interesting conversation. And I actually love the conversations between Mamao and Lihua, because I think that right here, this is where we get to see the strength of these women really come out. Lady Lihua asks why she's just not left to die. And Mamao says, I've observed that you still continue to eat. If you really wanted to die, you could just stop eating. And Lady Lihua acknowledges that she does, despite her depression at the loss of her child and what's been happening to her, and the fact that the emperor won't visit her anymore. The emperor, it completely ignores her. She still wants to hold on. She doesn't want to die, but she's so stricken, she's so saddened at the loss of her son, and that she knows that she is responsible for the loss of her precious boy. Well, Mamao doesn't tear into her, saying, yeah, that is indeed your fault, but she encourages the lady and is like, no, you still need to live. You can have a child again if you try. You can become stronger, and you are beautiful. You are naturally gorgeous. You don't need makeup or anything like that to show off just how incredible you are. And you are a strong person because you still kept on fighting. Even though you wanted to die, you didn't succumb to that thought. And the more you take care of yourself, the stronger you will be. And with a few hints I can teach you, you can woo the emperor right on back. And as a little bonus, he did ask that I try to save your life, so he hasn't completely forgotten about you. And we get to see how Lady Lihua takes these conversations to heart and becomes, once again, a beautiful, strong woman. And she shows real affection to Mamao, where earlier in the series, she didn't. And that's just, I think, really beautiful reciprocation right there. Showing that Lihua, who you might have had a bad impression of in the first few episodes, that deep down, there is a much more beautiful, much more powerful woman there. A woman who understands who she is as one of the emperor's concubines, who holds herself to that level, but isn't going to be so haughty as to be impetuous and awful towards a young girl, but actually shows real genuine care for Mamao at the end and real gratitude. That is strength of character. And so even though we don't get this beautiful story like we did in episode 3, where the princess and the soldier have managed to cheat the emperor, escape the rear palace, and go on to live happily ever after, riding off into the sunset, you still get a happy story where the women who are involved in this tragedy are redeemed, where they again rediscover their own self-value and take that to themselves, because again, they are just concubines and ladies in waiting, toys for this emperor who doesn't care about most of them. Most of these women who are waiting for him to show them any kind of notice or go into their bedchambers, he doesn't care about them. They're just left to be used and abused by expectation, and they still find purpose. They still have identity, and they find fulfillment in loving each other, taking care of each other, looking out for each other. That shows the bonds of sisterhood. That shows the quality of their inner character. And it shows us a lot about Mamao as well as an individual, someone who is so abused throughout the series, who is constantly being kicked out and everything. And yes, she does have her own boss moment where she goes ape on the woman who's been poisoning Lady Lihua, even if by mistake. But Mamao herself shows great fortitude, patience, understanding, and care. This tells you a lot about who she is as an individual, that she really is a strong young woman who can put up through so much and still find goodness in other people and in her station, in what is otherwise an awful predicament for anyone to find themselves in. And this brings me to a bit of writing insights that I think we definitely need to visit, because so many critics, especially for modern day Hollywood, really don't take the point far enough. They point out how there's so many strong two-dimensional women who really have no depth of character, but then they always then point and say, look, you have this other character from like the 80s who is a strong woman. She has depth of character. Here's the one scene where she shows motherly instincts. Therefore, she is a deep character. And while that can be good to see, that's not enough. You need to show how the maternal instincts of a motherly character, or the kindness of a caring teenager, or the intellect of a wise woman continues to play throughout the story. You can't just put into one or two scenes, point at it and say, look at that, I gave my character depth. One or two deep scenes do not a deeply written character make. Instead, when we look at someone, for instance, like Mamao, we know that she is a very intelligent, beautiful, deep, and caring character because of scene after scene after scene that shows us that. And we also get plenty of her humor because scene after scene after scene, we see how she uses a wry sense of humor, which I love a good wry sense of humor. Put that onto a slab of rye bread and it's delicious. By seeing that humor, we also see how she deals with horrible situations by poking fun at them, by using a sense of humor. That is another great quality to a deep character that is usually often overlooked. And I'm just going to say this, writing humor can be difficult. Even if you yourself have a good sense of humor, that doesn't always translate well onto the page. So I just have to say, kudos to the writers for really bringing out great comedy for Mamao. Not just physical comedy, but also great wordplay. But again, if you want your character to come across as deep and complex, you need to show that depth of character, that complexity of character, again and again and again throughout the story. Not just within isolated moments, but in how they interact with other characters, how they act when they're just by themselves, how do they deal with various situations. It can't just be straightforward and two-dimensional. That's easy to write, and that's how most people write. But if you want to actually communicate to your audience that this is a complicated and deep individual, you need to show us that again and again and again. And that is where we see the depth and strength of these women within the Rear Palace really come out and shine. And oh man, if I could drag all of the people who either champion for the strong woman character or who berate the strong woman character, I would love to just be like, slap, 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 slap. Okay, let me sit you guys down here in this room, no talking, and we're going to play the first 4 episodes of the Apothecary Diaries, and then we're going to discuss. Because that right there, even in a situation that most of us would find abhorrent, wow, those are strong, beautiful female characters, and we need more of that in fiction. So those are my thoughts, my insights, my writing advice based on the 4th episode of the Apothecary Diaries. I'm so excited to see what happens next because it looks like we're getting some sort of magical plague. Bring on the poison. Mamao is ready for it. In the meantime, if you're looking for more writing advice, insights, or reviews, then please check out our other works here on our channel. You can also head on over to our podcast, Camille's Harem. And if you'd like to support the work that we do, please consider liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing if you haven't already done so, and we would especially love it if you check out the books that we've published. Links for them are in the description below. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this fantastic adventure that we call writing. Let us all endeavor to write better written female characters in the future, and even now in the present. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.